The earliest body of well-preserved temples in India is of the period of the early Chalukyas, from the 6th to the 8th centuries. These were made near the banks of the Malaprabha river in present-day Karnataka.
Karnataka is a very important place for the early history of temple architecture in India. These are earlier monuments than the ones of the Pallavas, and it could be that the so-called southern Indian style of temple was actually initiated here in Karnataka and from there exported down to the Tamil zone. Now the Chalukyas built extensively, but they were eventually pushed out of power by the Rashtrakutas, who took their tradition and developed it further, as may be seen in Ellora, where we have a fantastic monumental rock-cut temple. Basically, it's a monolithic imitation of a structural temple. It's exactly like the temples at Pattadakal of the early 8th century.
The Chalukyas rose to power in the mid-6th century and made their capital at Badami. The oldest surviving monument of their rule is the Ravana Phadi cave at Aihole, not far from Badami. It is dedicated to Shiva and was probably made around 550 AD. It is in the Virupaksh temple that we see the full glory of art under the Chalukyas. The temple was made in 735 AD by Lokeshwari, a queen of King Vikramaditya II. It was to celebrate his victory over the Pallavas of Kanchipuram. And the temple is probably modelled after the Kailashnatha temple of Kanchipuram, which had greatly impressed the king. The temple is the largest of this period. Its compound walls enclose a complex of 30 sub-shrines in the courtyard and a large Nandi Mandapa. Such a pavilion housing Nandi was first seen in the Kailashnatha temple at Kanchipuram. The Virupaksha and the Kailashnatha at Kanchipuram were probably the largest and the most ornate temples in India at that time. The structures are all made of the local red sandstone and are elaborately carved. The walls of the temple have 35 niches with images of Shiva. 18 pierced windows serve to light the vast interior hall. The hall has 4 rows of pillars which divide the space into aisles.
Perhaps the greatest masterpiece of all early Chalukya sculpture is that which is easily missed. It's in the Virupaksha temple at Pattadakal, and you have to take a torch with you because it's in a little sub-shrine and it's not always illuminated. But if you ask for it and it's pointed out and you have a light, you can look into this little shrine and there you will find one of the most remarkable representations of Durga spearing the buffalo demon. And it's not very large, but it's enormously imposing. There she is twisted in the violence of spearing the buffalo demon, who himself is twisted beneath her. In spite of the energy and violence of the figure, the face of the goddess is almost always detached and serene. It's as if she is above and beyond the actions. Her body expresses the violence, her face expresses an otherworldliness that is truly impressive.
The next period of great temple building in present-day Karnataka was in the 12th century. In the 11th and 12th centuries, hill chieftains named the Hoysalas came to power and created a kingdom in southern Karnataka. The Hoysala king Vishnuvardhana defeated the imperial Cholas in 1116. To commemorate his victory, he built the temple of Keshava or Chinna Keshava at Belur in present-day Karnataka. He named it the Vijayanarayana or the victorious Vishnu. The temple is a classic example of the ornate style of temple art under the Hoysalas. They inherited a rich tradition of temple building from the dynasties before them, the Chalukyas and the Cholas. The Hoysalas borrowed freely from these traditions and created a style which is a rich blend of both influences. Many finely carved temples stand in the present-day village of Halebid. Here was once the grand capital of the Hoysalas, known as Dora Samudra. Built between 1121 and 1160, the profusely decorated temple of Hoysaleshwara is the most prominent structure here. As in the case of the Chinnakeshava temple, the towers of Vimanas are missing. Like the previous temple, the Hoysaleshwara is profusely and intricately carved. There is no effort spared in creating a world of fine detail and ornamentation. It is as if no labor was considered too great in attempting to show the glory of the divine.
It's almost impossible to understand the architectural design of these monuments because they are so encrusted. Even the doorways are hardly visible outside the sculpture. And then you have guardian figures holding clubs, but you can hardly see the faces of the figures because they are so encrusted with jewelry, with headdress, with swaying necklaces and costumes. So this is a sort of art which privileges the decorative features, all executed in the most crisply carved stonework that one has seen anywhere in India.
The temples of the Hoysalas mark the most exuberant period in the history of Indian art. The sculpture on these is the most detailed and decorative ever made anywhere in the country. It is a sense of profuse ornamentation which marks these temples. It conveys the grandeur of the Hoysala court and empire at that time.